In this video I'm going to take a look at the len function in Python and how it is able to find the length of a sequence. In particular we'll be looking at how we can find the length of a Python list, and furthermore how we can use the len function within a while loop to allow us to iterate across the list. The len function is able to find the length of a sequence. For example, it is able to find how many characters are in a string, how many elements are in a Python list. Consider this small segment of code. We can see on this line that list_a is assigned this slot, and what we have here is the definition of a list, and we can see that the list has 3, 6, 8 and 100, and that means the list has 4 elements. And on this line I've got a variable called list_length is assigned, and here you can see I'm using the len function and I'm passing in list_a, and what this function is going to do, it's going to return to this variable the length of the list, which should, as you think about how many elements are in the list, it should be 4. Now we can show this schematically as shown here. I like to show this as being the function, and the function taking an input and giving us an output. Now if we refer to the program segment, what in fact is happening is list A is going to go in, the len function is going to have a look at the list and count how many elements are in the list, and we can clearly see there are 4, so 4 will be generated and given as the output, and of course this output will be given to this variable here. So we can say that the list_length is actually going to be bound to the integer 4. Let's now consider this computer program, and you can see that the first 2 lines are indeed these 2 lines here, but I've added this now, which is simply going to print the list_length. So when this program executes, what we're going to see at the output is this, and we can see we have here 4, because that's the length of this Python list. The last video in the playlist looked at this computer program here, and we can see that we have a list that has got 3 elements, and here we have a while loop, and we're asking is I less than 3, and when it is we go into the loop and we print each element of the list in turn, incrementing the value of I so it goes on to point to the next element in the list, and we ask here if I is less than 3 because there are 3 elements in the list. And of course you have to remember that the last element is at position 2. That's why we ask if I is less than 3, not less than 2. Now when this program executes, what we will get is this, and you can see it outputs the 23, the 71 and the 8 from the list definition here. If we now look at this computer program, it's more or less the same as the one above. The difference being here, however, is you can see you have 10 elements in the list, and here we've changed I to be I less than 10 because there are 10 elements in the list, and of course when this program executes, this is what you're going to get, where this output is the content of the list as it was defined on this line. Let's have a look at the 3-element list again and the while loop associated with it, and we know when this program executes we're going to get this output. Now the program below is showing a slight amendment, and the amendment is in this position, whereas before we had in this position the I less than 3, as you can see here. What we now have is this use of len, the length function, and you can see the argument is list_a. So this is going to have a look at the list, which we know has 3 elements, and return to this position is the value of 3. So this here will be asking is I less than 3 in the same way it was asking here, but of course here we actually use the number 3, whereas here I'm finding the length of the list in question, which is list_a, as you can see defined here in this program, and you can see that definition is the same here in this program. So the output we would expect from this is, as you see here, exactly the same output, because in effect we're doing exactly the same thing. We're going around the while loop appropriately, and we have this conditional test here using the len function instead of the number 3. Let's now quickly return to this program, which shows us a 10-element list, and here you can see I've got I is less than 10 as the conditional test. Now when this program executes, what we're going to see is this. If I now consider this program, I've made an amendment, and the amendment is here, and you can see I'm using the len function again, this time passing in the same list, list underscore a, but of course the list on this occasion is 10 elements. Consequently, this will return 10. Therefore, this is really asking, is I less than 10, which is what it was doing here. Except, of course, here I'm using the literal value of 10, whereas here I'm using the function to find out what the length of the list is. If, for example, I was to change this list now to 100 elements, I wouldn't have to change this, because this is going to find the length of the list to be 100. Of course, if I was to change this to 100, then I would have to change this to 100 if I were to go with the literal values. So when this program executes, what we're going to get out is this. So if we consider this program again, here you can see I'm using the len function and I'm passing in list underscore a as the argument, and of course what this will do, it'll have a look at the list and we'll see, oh, it's got 3 elements, so this will return 3, and of course we go into the loop and print each element in turn, incrementing I appropriately, and we will get this output. When I go on now to make the list a lot bigger, as you can see here, it's now got 10 elements in. I have made no changes to the program anywhere else, and in fact if you look here, I'm using the same code as you would see here, and what this program will do, it'll find the length of list A, which we can see is 10, so this will be I less than 10, and consequently when we run this program, it's going to iterate around the loop 10 times, and on each occasion it's going to be outputting one of the elements, and we're going to get the output as shown here. So we don't have to worry how long the lists are if we use this, which will go and find the length of the list for us. So changing the length of the list to 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, it won't matter, because this will find the length of that list regardless of its size in terms of its number of elements. We have just observed that the while loop together with the len function allows for navigation over a Python list. However, as mentioned in the last video, Python has better mechanisms than the while loop for navigating, that is, iterating over a Python list. These mechanisms are covered in later videos in the playlist. These other mechanisms will also find a use for the len function. Check out the supporting website for these videos. In addition, why not follow me on Twitter, as I issue a tweet every time I upload a new video.